Wildlife for beginners. Where should you start? All right, welcome back to Photography After Hours. Cheers. All right, so we are here at Photography After Hours, and I'm going to introduce our committee today, or whatever. We call it something different every time. So I'm going to introduce everyone. This is everyone. All right. So we have Sprague, Susie, Lisa, and my name is Nick. And we are sponsored by PAC, who is the Photographers Adventure Club. We do workshops, seminars, meetings, all kinds of education related to photography. So check it out on photoadvclub.com. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about wildlife for beginner photographers out there. You get a camera, you have this camera, you get a kit lens maybe that comes with it, and what are your limitations and how far can you go with that? So I know something that you mentioned is start close by. Don't go run out to Africa for your first shoot. Go to your backyard and sit in a lawn chair.
Exactly.
So let's discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, so, I've been shooting wildlife since I was probably about 13, and it's always been a passion of mine. I think if you're a nature person at all, it's natural to want to have a camera and capture those things, and even if you're just a tourist on a vacation somewhere, you want to capture these things. So for beginners, a lot of times I think people think to do wildlife photography, you have to have those, $5,000-$10,000 lenses that are 3 feet long and weigh a ton. And yeah,
you do. So
and you do. So,
so we're done.
So good luck with that.
Get out your wallet.
Get out your wallet, and yeah, exactly. And that's a really nice piece of gear to have, but the vast majority of people don't have the luxury of being able to do that. And so I've always really championed the photographers that want to get started. And I think one of the things to remember is that, first of all, no matter where you are, you have to find the animals first. So I don't care if you have a, 800 millimeter lens, it does you no good unless there are animals nearby. So one of my favorite things to recommend to folks is just simply to look around your neighborhood. There's typically cardinals, chickadees, birds at your bird feeder, bunnies in the backyard, or whatever it might be. Start there and sit there. I see so many people that feel like they need to go and trek out into the woods somewhere, and they're hiking and they're going, and you got to get 8 miles away from the nearest thing. And no, the wildlife will come when you find a reasonably decent spot and then sit and have patience. So I would argue that the most important ingredient in wildlife photography isn't the 800 millimeter lens, it's the patience. And that's a big start.
So do you find it easier to, for that hummingbird to, hit it with a wiffle ball bat and then put it up there and then
Pretty
shoot
much.
it?
Yeah. In fact, one time I was playing tennis and my ball hit a bat out of the sky. Yeah. True story.
Batman was involved.
Little
True
hairspray
story.
on him and stick him up there.
Yeah.
Right.
I named him Wilson. He was okay in the end.
I'm sorry, Wilson.
Easier to get good solid focus.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but short of striking things out of the sky. And what was your point anyway?
We usually start with Sprague it. He makes something funny and we did it, so I figured
That's
that
right.
Never killed an animal with anything but a steel-belted radio.
So stay close by. So Sprague, how important do you feel techniques are or practicing?
Well, I think it's like a golf swing. I mean, like Lisa said, a lot of it is simply sitting and waiting and anticipating, because if the animals don't feel comfortable around you, they're going to dash. Mm-hmm. And if you just sit there, then they're going to come in. If you look like a trusted entity.
Sounds creepy. The animals have to trust you. You want some candy?
That's when you crack them with a mallet and cook them up,
Just sprinkle breadcrumbs all over yourself and just sit very still.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't work in Africa, though. Then they eat you and they hawk your gear on eBay. It's terrible.
Got all downhill this episode.
It really has.
We were in Gibraltar one time, and so we were up on the rock, and there's an an animal called a Barbary ape, and it's unique to that particular area. They think that they may have migrated over from Africa. They have no idea how they got there. There have been rumors that maybe they built a tunnel from that narrow channel between.
The apes built a tunnel?
The apes built a tunnel.
Wow.
Well, they had, a million years to dig, so wait, it's like
So it took a lot of patience to photograph these guys. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, they took my picture, They said, I want to show you this deal here. But the problem with them is that they like people a little too much, because if you're not careful, they'll jump on your shoulder and they're smiling and they're happy, and then they'll take your glasses and your pins and everything, and then they hit it. The people who actually live up there will tell you they never leave their windows open, because the apes will come in and they'll just steal all their crap. So
they're thieves too.
But yeah, so
Robin Hood.
but as it gets to the point of having a long lens, we're up there and it's starting to rain, and there are only probably 350 to 400 of these apes in existence, and so they're all kind of around, and so it's raining, so we're all huddled up against a wall, and they're with us, and here was a mom and a dad and two little babies, and they're all just kind of huddled up, and it just looked like a perfect family photo. And so I'm as close to them as from here to that beer, and just went up and smiled and got them to pose and took a picture, and they're this far away. And it was a great shot. And then I got one posing on the wall looking out, over the water at the ships, and
so they're vein apes too.
They're vein apes, yeah.
So the point
How's my hair?
Well, and they all have the good sunglasses too,
So the advice I think that I'm getting from what you're sharing is go where there's an abundance of animals, and ones that aren't going to completely freak out and run away as soon as you pick up a camera, right?
Right.
That's a good way to get a little bit of experience trying to get an animal in focus, and especially one that's going to be moving kind of randomly, that kind of thing. And for that reason, probably zoos are a really good opportunity to practice how animals move towards you and away from you and things like that. And
not move at all.
Yeah.
Lethargic animals.
And if it starts pouring rain, you can usually find something to stand under. Yeah.
But no, zoos are an interesting thing, because some people really love zoos. Some people have issues with zoos, and there's pros and cons, and that's beyond the scope of today. But, I think going to a place, whether it's a zoo or conservation center, assuming there's ethical practices there, I think what's really nice about that, when you're getting started with wildlife photography, people have issues of shooting captive animals, but I think as a practice technique, it's excellent, because you can work on focusing on the eye. That's one of the most important things with wildlife photography. If the eye's not in focus, nothing else matters. Well, are you able to do that as the animal's moving around, and do you know your equipment well enough to do that? It doesn't require an $8 million lens to do that. You can do that with a walking around lens. Looking at how light...
Isn't it like a $7 million lens?
It was 7, yeah. They've upped it to 8 now, but
Mostly Canon.
Yeah.
Nothing for a stepper.
That's right. But looking at how the light interacts with the fur, can you do backlight, side light, front light? What does that do? What do different types of light do? And playing with how animals move through that light, and looking at how light impacts that image, I think is a phenomenal lesson, and it doesn't require a lot of expensive gear to do. And spending a day at a zoo, not simply just because you want to see all 1,900 animals that are there, but seeing how the light impacts them, how the time of day impacts behavior, and even many zoos, in addition to the far off remote animals, they have animals that are local to the region. And so if you can watch their behaviors, understand what they do, that can certainly be helpful. Behavior will be a little different in a zoo than it is in the wild, but you can start to understand some typical things. What makes them spook, what makes them sit there, how does their fur look in a different amount of light. And then you can also practice with your gear and get good at shooting things on the move.
I've noticed even just photographing a roadrunner, they have different patterns of how they'll stop, they'll freeze, they'll look a little bit, then they kind of do this one movement, and then they go. And then they stop, and they'll, beep, beep. Usually there's a coyote running right behind them.
Big Acme sign. Yeah.
But they do that even if they're just in my neighborhood or if they're at the zoo or whatever. So, I mean, I think you've mentioned many times before how important it is, particularly with birds, to start understanding their patterns of movement.
Absolutely.
And
Quail will do the same thing. They'll send like one way, and then the
Yeah.
male will go the other way, and then the chicks are like hiding in like a bush, and then they'll go after. They know who to go after. They like usually after mom.
Yeah.
So like the one's a decoy.
Yeah.
So they're like
yeah.
they'll go and they're boom, boom, and then they're like then they run the other way, and you just see this little a bunch of little chicks.
they always have a sentinel. So they always have someone on lookout while everybody else is eating, and they take turns.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to figure out like what it is that they're doing.
And their different calls are tells
Yeah.
too. You know, you can.
The other thing I wanted to mention about zoos before we talk about something else is you talked about not having to have the big long lens, not having to invest the $12,000, et cetera, in a big long lens. And the benefit of the zoo is it necessarily brings the tiger close enough for me to use the lens that I have.
Yeah.
So even my kit lens that I got with like one of my first DSLR bodies way back when, I got some really good zoo pictures because of that proximity.
Yeah.
And got a good idea of how to kind of frame the animal and leave space and things like that for the animal because they couldn't run away.
Well, and I know that there's people probably listening going, but zoos aren't wildlife animals. I'm not saying go take a picture of a tiger and say, hey, I was just in India the other day.
Right.
What I'm saying is use it as a practice.
Yeah.
Use it as an opportunity to understand movement, how your camera responds, how you can improve your shots, because the quicker you can go from 0 to 100 with that shot, wildlife moves quickly. You got to be ready and on the game with shooting that with whatever gear you have, a cell phone or $20,000 worth of gear. You got to be able to know how to use it in an instant and focus and get your settings the way you want to not just snap what I call documentation shot of it, but to snap a very visually appealing image of that animal. And the other thing that I'll say about lens length, because often I know that's what got me engaged in wildlife photography as a kid. I saw the people with the big long lenses and I'm like, my mission was always to get closer, get the longer lens. And yeah, that's a thrill. But what I've also started to do is move away from that, because what I've seen in the kind of the breadth of wildlife work that's out there is so often you see tight shot, close up of the eyes, close up of everything. And we lose the perspective of the animal and its environment. So when all you have is maybe a 200 or 300 millimeter lens, which is, decent, but that might be the most you can afford. Sometimes not even that much. I think to understand composition in light really well so that you can take a picture of an animal in its surroundings, and it's every bit as breathtaking as it would be if it was tight and you could see every eyelash. And I think opening your vision to having more options for shooting than just going for it's got to be tight or it's not good. I think you really need to be more creative with that. And so folks that are just starting out with, I'll use air quotes, limited gear, you have a really wonderful opportunity to develop your sense of style without just defaulting to only the close shots. Because the longer lens you have, that's what you tend to focus on, no pun intended. And you lose a lot of that beautifulness. Go look at Nat Geo, go look at Ranger Rick, go look at these different things. They're animals in their environment, not just the close-up shots, and that can help really round out your portfolio.
So, so time of day. What times of day do you think wildlife that people should tell people to go out and check that stuff out?
So probably not noon unless you're over with the Barbary monkeys, right?
Well, I would throw say probably feeding time would probably be the most likely time.
Especially if you're at the zoo.
Yeah, and a lot of that is probably in the evening when they can't be seen.
Absolutely. So. But it kind of works out well for wildlife because, you have the magic hours, right? The hour or so, depending on where you are in the world, of morning light and the hour or so of evening light tends to be when they're the most active. So the trick is to go for an all-day wildlife shoot because you're not often going to see things. And then often if you do, the light's so harsh that it's coming from top down and everything's shaded really weird. So really understanding light, I think, is really going to help you understand how to photograph and when to photograph the animals. And again, I'll go back to a lot of your neighborhood animals aren't as conditionally affected by morning and evening as they are out in the field somewhere. So go shoot the rabbits.
The dogs next door bark all day long.
Right.
they don't worry about what time it is.
Right. butterflies, hummingbirds. You know, I don't care if
Neighborhood cats.
it's neighborhood cats. You know, use your own pets to practice. You know, try to focus on your dog running through the yard. See how hard that is.
Chasing the cat.
Yes, exactly. So.
Well, I also found that the crocodiles, when we were on a kayak trip in Costa Rica, they didn't seem to be terribly worried about predators, so they were out there in midday light, just kind of jumping in and out and up on the banks.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that goes back to understanding the behavior.
Right.
And if you don't know the behavior, go ask someone local. What should I expect?
So a lot of this stuff, your dad goes hunting and stuff. So a lot of this stuff is the same as hunting. It's a lot of waiting, a lot of patience, a lot of being quiet or camouflage or blend into your environment, different things like that, and not a lot of shots necessarily, because you're usually just waiting for stuff to kind of get comfortable with you.
Exactly.
So,
and I wouldn't be myself if I didn't insert this into anything that I talk about with wildlife. And that's to really pay close attention to ethics, you know, and especially when you don't have a long lens. A lot of folks want to get closer, and they feel like they've only gotten too close if the animal flees. Well, a lot of times you're in nesting grounds or you're in breeding grounds or, you know, incessantly playing bird calls on your phone or whatever that might be. There's some real implications to that, and it's beyond the scope of today, but ethics is so important. If you're a wildlife photographer, it should mean that you care about the wildlife and you don't just care about the shot. So that's an important part as well.
cool. Well, thanks for
All right.
coming, Lisa.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To lions and
All right,
tigers
so
and bears.
put your tips down in the bottom down there, and let us know what you think is good for beginners out there, and we'll see you next time.